Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about what a government is telling their people to stockpile and why are they telling them to stockpile it. This is from several countries, several governments. They're telling their citizens. Not only that, we're going to go over a story that makes you want to stockpile something else that's very important that we've talked about in the past. Let's jump into these two things today and how important it is for you and your family, because it could be life or death, especially in a situation that we see that is developing in our world. Let's jump into it. Today's video starts right now. Hey guys, welcome to the Max. I decided to turn my head around because I think that sun was kind of making where you couldn't see my face, and that might be a good thing. I'm not the prettiest guy, but thank you for being here today. If you're new to the channel, go down here, press subscribe, ring the bell, give us a thumbs up. It means the world to me when you do that, and that helps us share our content across YouTube. Please share this video if it means something to you. Also, comment below telling us what you think about this content, because both of these stories are very important to you as a prepper, as someone who wants to live sustainable, or just a typical guy who wants to live a life in America and raise his family and keep them safe. Let's jump into these two stories. Reading first story, it says, why are European governments urging their citizens to stockpile so many prescription drugs? It says European governments fear prescription drug shortages and they are starting to tell their citizens to stockpile. In Europe, unlike America, they see the issue with getting attention of the media to the fact that we are so dependent on China when it comes to our prescription drugs. They're telling their citizens it's coming to a point where there's risk that you may not have access to them if things get more volatile or things get more strained. It says European leaders are doing more than just responding to the crisis. They're acting after the continent faced massive drug shortages throughout the winter. European consumers, like American consumers, are reliant on pharmaceutical supplies, and guess what? They're from China. This is from Senator Marco Rubio, and he said this back pre-2020. Chinese policymakers aim to make China's domestic biotechnology industry the medicine cabinet of the world. And guess what? They have succeeded. It says post 2020, which is the pandemic, the reliance on China for prescription drugs has only gotten worse as tensions escalate between US and China. The possibility that China could leverage this to their advantage is huge, because they know how dependent we are, because they know how much we're purchasing each and every year. America is buying way more prescriptions than most other countries, and again, supplied from China. Now, first of all, I think America should be making their own prescription drugs. I have yet to figure out why we're not. But because we're not, I'm urging you to stockpile these just like the European government is doing. Now, I challenge you to talk to your pharmacist, talk to your doctor. Maybe you'll get those added and they can get in your stockpile and you can have them safely at your home. If you're not allowed to get that, talk to companies like Jace Medical, Duration, Wellness. There's tons of them out there. Jace is who we like. That's who we buy from. I'll tell you a situation where my son had like a either infection or a reaction to something, and he started having a really swollen lip here just a few weeks ago. We couldn't figure out what it was. We were not around doctors. We were not around going to clinics because everybody's been sick in our area. So we reached out to a nurse practice that we knew and said, hey, look at these pictures. What do you think this is? She said, hey, I believe this will heal it. And we happened to have that prescription in our preparedness. Worked out great. He took it. No big deal, no harm, no foul. We never left our home. Now, could we have easily just went to the doctor? Absolutely. But what if all of a sudden you can't? What if all of a sudden there is shortage? What if all of a sudden you're in another pandemic? What if all of a sudden you're in an adverse situation, kind of like a crap hits the fan situation? What are you going to do? You have to have prescriptions, especially if you're reliant on them for your health and for life. But not only that, what about the infections that you get? What about the bacterial infections? What about all those things that you need them for? Infections are a big deal, and without having a pharmacy or prescriptions, it can be very detrimental. So I love the fact that Europe is telling their people, you better look at stockpiling this. Talk to your doctor, talk to your pharmacist, order from preparedness companies, but you better be ready because China has this as leverage. Experts suggest that the growth of the US and Chinese pharmaceutical trade poses a serious risk in adversarial relationships that could result in supply chain closures. What do you think about all these ships in the Red Sea? Could that be causing problems? We do get some from China, we get some from India, and that could be affected by these big ships not being able to get here. It's doubling the price. So supply chain woes could be the problem. It could be the fact that we're pushing against Taiwan. You know, what the situation is with them and their policies. It may be the fact that that's why American politicians are not hard on China, because they're scared of this right here, because they know we're dependent on China, which is unbelievable to me. Now, I want to bring up one more little story, and then we'll jump into the second topic. This was from last year, but WHO, World Health Organization, which again, you could take it for what it's worth, but they did something. They did recommend something, and I tell you this, I don't believe in a lot of their agendas that they push, especially how they're tied to WF and the Gates Foundation. But they did recommend stockpiling medicines for radiological and radioactive catastrophes. I just thought that was kind of weird. It may just be me just being kind of a tinfoil hat wearer, I don't know, but if people are telling you to stockpile things for nuclear reaction, I think that's something we should listen to. We should heed that warning. So, you know, things like potassium iodine, things like respirators, things like oxygen, all those stuff you could buy on Amazon. I mean, you could buy for cheap. They're not really expensive. It would be good to have. If you can't afford $1 million bunker, which most of us can't because we're not billionaires, but what we can do is we can learn how to help ourselves from the rays of nuclear exposure. You have alpha, beta, and the gamma. Gamma's, of course, I think the worst. But it tells you you could stack tons of mattresses and make it where books and mattresses and papers and walls can help you from getting some of those rays. They go down pretty quickly. But things like potassium iodine helps you as well. Things like having oxygen masks help you as well. So look and study in some of that, because why would the WHO put this out last year saying that, you know, across the world it may be wise to stockpile some things for nuclear exposure? I mean, we're building nuclear reactors all over the world, not just us in America, even though we call it clean energy, but you're basically building this nuclear bomb right there close. If all of a sudden something goes wrong and something can't cool it, how dangerous is it? Okay, we're done with medicine. Number 2. This is one that hits home, and this is one I've been preaching to you for years. The Telegraph put out carbon footprint of homegrown foods are 5 times greater than those grown conventionally. So what they're saying is your garden is more dangerous than us growing conventional food in this lab. Your chicken that's on your farm is growing wrong, which is what we've done for thousands of years, by the way, you know, but it's grown totally wrong, and you need to raise them in these houses that we build conventionally, where they live on top of each other and live in their own filth. The way you grow your cows, the way you grow your seeds, the way you grow your corn at your local home, in your local gardens, regenerative ag, homesteading, is wrong. It's wrong. You can't do that anymore. You need to allow us to grow it with GMO crops and big business grow it, and you just be subservient and your food comes from us. That's basically what they're saying. There's a story years ago about FEMA coming for your gardens and how dangerous it is to have grants on your farm, how dangerous it is to have food on your farm because they could come to confiscate it. This is exactly what they're doing. They're telling you right now, do you hear the climate push that they're doing all across the world? Now they're saying, well, gardens, local gardens, because they don't know what they're doing. These stupid people don't know how to grow food right. So we need to teach them, and we need to grow food genetically modified to be good for our carbon footprint. We need to grow food in petri dishes. We need to make sure that they're not growing chicken and cow and seeds. So why don't we hurt the cow population? Why don't we hurt the chicken population? Why don't we take the seeds away? I'm gonna tell you about seeds right quick, and I think you need to look at places like Survival Seeds, Hall Seeds, all the places that you buy from, in my gardener, anywhere you want to buy from. Baker Creek, I'm throwing a lot of names out because they're all great. But if all of a sudden some of these seed providers don't allow the seeds to go to co-ops, could you grow your own food? Do you know how to save seed? Do you know what you can do to get food to your home? This is a big deal. Now, if some of you live in town, you still may go to farmers markets and buy fresh food. Well, if these kind of stories keep on coming out saying, well, you know, it's actually more dangerous. We got to cut that. That's bad for the climate. That's bad for the environment, which is the biggest crock of junk I've ever heard in my life, because regenerative ag is how we've made it for so long. How do we have our crops? We let chickens range right on where we grow crops because it adds nitrogen, fertilizer back to the soil that's natural, regenerative, and we grow great crops and feed our family all year. But they're telling us, you can't do that anymore, you little homesteader. You've got to learn to buy my stuff from the supermarket that's completely genetically modified, that's bad for you. That would probably make you have to buy more prescriptions, by the way. This is serious. If you're not growing gardens, at least buy some seeds. They're dirt cheap, $1 to $2 per pack, and have them. You can always barter with them. You can always give to your neighbor. You can always grow right there and have edible landscaping in your subdivision. When they tell you can't grow gardens, you can do edible landscaping in your shrubberies. You'd be surprised how much you could grow. Don't be discouraged, but at the same time, don't be blinded that this is happening. That they're basically going to control the food, because people like me, they don't like people like me. Not only am I conservative Christian, but I can grow my own food. I've got pig growing right here in this forest, way deep in these woods. There's pig growing. If you look past that, there's gardens growing. If you look past all this, there's hay for my cows off land that has not been fertilized. People like me, they don't like, but it's because I can provide food for me and my neighbors, because I can be sustainable and I don't need the system to pay to give me food. But if they keep making it harder for people to grow food, they keep taxing land like they're doing, they keep putting restrictions and regulations on you, are you going to be able to control that? Are you going to be able to be sustainable? Are you going to be able to grow seeds when all of a sudden you can't buy them at the co-op? You know, this year, or excuse me, last year. Now, Mississippi is a sweet potato hub for America. They grow tons of them in the Delta. In Mississippi, 2 hours under the Delta area where they grow loads of sweet potatoes, I couldn't get slips here. Now, I didn't need them. I mean, we grow our own. But they could not get slips at the local co-ops, meaning that's how you grow sweet potatoes. 2 hours from the provider. That's a big deal. That's how serious it could be. If you don't learn how to grow, learn how to put your own food up, learn how to be sustainable with your seeds, you will listen to what they say because you're dependent on their food, which will make you more dependent on their prescriptions. And if all of a sudden you can't get them and you have to go back to them because you don't have emergency preparedness ones, the crap hits the fan, what are you going to do? You're not self-reliant. You're fully reliant on the government. Remember that. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think about this video. Stockpile prescriptions in a way that you could either talk to your doctor, talk to your pharmacist, or either through emergency preparedness. I love Jace. There's a discount below if you want to tackle that. I think you need to have emergency preparedness medicine. I think it's a big deal. Not only that, have some seeds. I feel like I beat a dead horse when I talk about seeds, but it is your lifeblood. Spiritually, Christ is everything. He provides all I need. But then he also gives us smarts to say, you know what? I give you the things that you need to physically take care of yourself. Think of Joseph in the Bible. Seeds it's life. It's food. It's how we feed our family. Have sustainability and self-reliance by growing gardens, and buy some seeds right now because it's going to get harder and harder as the years go by. Thank you for watching. God bless. Happy homesteading, y'all.